As Will walked through the door, he was met by Toriel waiting. He took a few steps, and she began to speak. "Welcome to your new home, innocent one." "New home? I'm living here now?" Will thought. "Allow me to educate you in the operation of the ruins," Toriel continued. She then did a short demonstration of pressing a few buttons on the ground and flipping a switch to open the door that was behind her. Afterward, she walked toward Will and gave a short description of the location they're in. "The ruins are full of puzzles, ancient fusions between diversions and door keys. One must solve them to move from room to room. Please adjust yourself to the side of them." Will nodded to do so, and Toriel walked through the doorway she opened. Will quickly looked at the puzzle she completed and followed her through. He was met with Toriel waiting for him again. When he stepped forward, she spoke again. "To make progress here, you will need to trigger several switches." Sounds simple enough, Will thought. "Do not worry, I have labeled the ones you need to flip." When she finished speaking, she smiled and walked ahead along the path. "Well, that makes things even simpler," he thought again. As he walked along the path, he noticed a switch on the wall. Around it was several yellow arrows pointing to it. "Well, someone calls staples," he said as he flipped the switch to continue on the path. He was then greeted by another set of switches, with the first one being painted like the one before. Not even saying anything, he walked up to the switch and flipped it down. While the last one did nothing, this one caused some spikes blocking the path to go back into the ground. "Splendid! I am so proud of you, little one," Toriel spoke with delight. "Let us move on to the next room." As she walked to the next room, Will was curious as to what the other switch did. When he stepped toward it, the mysterious voice from before spoke. "The switch doesn't even work." "Gee, I wonder if this was rigged," Will said sarcastically. He stepped through the other room and was again greeted by Toriel, standing there waiting. She began to speak as Will stepped forward. "As a human living in the underground, monsters may attack you." "May attack me?" Will thought. "You will need to be prepared for this situation." "How does one prepare for that situation? This is kind of something you don't usually prepare for," Will blurted out. "Worry not, the process is simple. When you encounter a monster, you will enter a fight." "No duh," Will thought. "That'd kind of be obvious." "While you're in a fight, strike up a friendly conversation. Stall for time. My house guests or I will come to resolve the conflict," Toriel responded. That was not what I was expected. Also, house guests? Who else is living with her? Will thought. He was very confused about Toriel having another house guest. He wondered if this guest was a goat person like her, or some other kind of monster. The possibility of it being human was low, seeing as humans who entered the underground never returned. Maybe they failed to protect themselves here. Before we got too much into thought, Toriel spoke again. "Practice talking to the dummy," she said while motioning towards a small dummy located on the other side of the room. Will gave a look of confusion and disbelief, a face that said, "You can't be serious right now." But he knew he would have to in order to move on, so he stepped forward toward the dummy, and something familiar happened. The world went black and white, and his red soul appeared in front of him. Something else familiar happened. The voice in Will's head spoke again. "You encountered the dummy." Some of this was familiar to Will, thanks to a certain demonstration. But some things were different this time. Will had 4 options in front of him. Each would be a different action for him to do. They read, fight, act, item, and mercy. He selected act, and then selected dummy. When he did this, more options appeared to choose from. They were check and talk. And following what Toriel said to do, he selected talk, and the voice spoke again. "You talk to the dummy." Yo, Will said, feeling very awkward about the situation he was in. It doesn't seem much for conversation. Will rolled his eyes for the obvious comment by the voice. "Toriel seems happy with you." He felt glad with his comment though, and he smiled. "You won! You earned 0 XP and 0 gold. Will's eyes widened when it, the voice, said gold. He thought, money here is gold? I'm gonna be rich! While he was imagining the amount of gold there could be in the underground, the world returned to normal. Will noticed this and snapped out of his thoughts and went to Toriel, who had a pleased look on her face. "Ah, very good. You are very good," she said to him. She proceeded to the next room, with Will following behind her, not wanting to keep her waiting. "There is another puzzle in this room. I wonder if you can solve it." "But as simple as the last puzzles were, I think I'll be able to," Will muttered to himself, just enough that Toriel couldn't hear him. They both continued along the path, Toriel a little further ahead than Will. As Will was falling behind, a soul appeared and he entered into his first fight that wasn't a dummy. The monster was small and frog-like. The voice in Will's head gave a small description of the monster. "Frogget attacks you." Will remembered what he had to do and went to press the act option, and while the check option was still there, new options were there to choose from too. Compliment and threat. Being the nice guy he is, he chose compliment. You look very nice today, Will said. Frogget didn't understand what you said, but was flattered anyway. When Will looked back at Frogget, he saw that it was blushing a little. As he was going to continue with his conversation, Tu-Toriel stepped in to stop the fighting. The Frogget was embarrassed and hopped away. You won! You earned 0 XP and 0 gold. The world returned to normal, and they both continued along the path. It wasn't long before they reached a room that contained a spiked floor. Tu-Toriel turned around and spoke to Will. This is the puzzle, but... Will was confused at what she was doing, until she continued. Here, take my hand for a moment. After she spoke, she held out her hand for him to take. Will took her hand, and she guided him along a spiked path, the spikes retreating into the ground as she walked along the different twists and turns. When they reached the end, she turned and spoke to Will. Puzzles seem a little too dangerous for now. They both continued on, and Tu-Toriel spoke again. You have done excellently thus far, my child. The one puzzle I was supposed to do, you literally held my hand to walk me through, Will thought. However, I have a difficult request to ask of you, Tu-Toriel continued, and paused. Well? I would like you to walk to the end of the room by yourself. Seriously? That's it? Going down this hall? Wow, you think everything is dangerous. I think I should start calling you Goat Mom or something, Will said, a bit sarcastically. Forgive me for this, Tu-Toriel said before going down the hall herself. Will walked down the long hallway with an average pace. He hummed a tune he remembered listening to on the surface. It occurred to him that he hasn't really thought about getting back home, or where Tu-Toriel was taking him, or who this house guest was. Before he got too deep in thought, he reached the end, and Tu-Toriel came out from behind a pillar and greeted him. Do not worry, I did not leave you. I was merely behind this pillar the whole time, she said. Okay, Will said. Thank you for trusting me. However, there was an important reason for this exercise, she continued. Wait, what? To test your independence. Hey, I may be young, but I can manage, Will said proudly. I must attend to some business, and you must be alone for a while. Please remain here. Is it dangerous to explore by yourself? Tu-Toriel asked. I'm not really one to stay put. You have any other ideas? Will asked back. I have an idea. I will give you a cell phone. Will's eyes lit up with excitement as he heard her say cell phone. He only ever had one, and it was this really old phone that barely worked. He hoped it wouldn't be the same as the other. If you have a need for anything, just call. As she handed Will the phone, she asked him to be good and made her exit. Will then made his own way through the ruins. He encountered different types of monsters compared to the Frogget he saw earlier. Tu-Toriel called a few times, telling him about certain items around the ruins, asking about cinnamon or butterscotch. He also encountered multiple puzzles along the way as well, including one with a somewhat stubborn talking rock. He also met a ghost with a very dapper style. After a while, he reached a room with a large dark-colored tree with no leaves. It was then he heard a familiar voice. Oh dear, that took longer than I thought it would, Tu-Toriel said as she dialed her phone. But as it was ringing, she noticed Will standing in front of her, waving at her. How did you get here, my child? Are you hurt? Will did lose some HP during a couple of the fights, but he felt fine. There, I will heal you, Tu-Toriel said while healing his wounds. I should not have left you alone for so long. It was irresponsible to try and surprise you like this. I'm fine, but that... Wait, what surprise? Will was curious as to what she meant. Well, I guess I cannot hide it any longer. Come, small one, she said as she stepped around the tree, with Will following behind. It was then he saw a purple bricked house, and to the side was another glowing star. He approached it again, and the voice returned to speak. Seeing such a cute, tidy house in the ruins gives you determination. He motioned toward the save option, and the text box changed what it said. He then started towards the house and walked inside. When he opened the door, he found Tu-Toriel waiting for him. Do you smell that? She asked. Will nodded as he took a big whiff through his nose. He found a sweet scent in the air. He remembers this smell from when he went to bakeries on the surface in his hometown. Surprise! It's a butterscotch cinnamon pie, Tu-Toriel said happily. Will was filled with curiosity because he never had tasted that type of pie. He was also filled with hunger, considering that the only thing he's eaten since falling was some candy. I thought that we might celebrate your arrival. I want you to have a nice time living here, so I will hold off on snail pie for tonight. Will didn't know what snail pie was, or how it tasted, but was thankful he didn't have to find out. As he was thinking this, Tu-Toriel spoke again. Here, I have another surprise for you. She motioned for Will to follow her down the hall. After a bit, she stopped to speak. This is it, a room for two. I hope you like it. she said while rubbing her hand through Will's spiky hair. For two, Will thought. Who else is here? The moment was broken by a smell of something burning. Toriel tells Will to make themselves at home while they investigate. Will explored his new room, which apparently he shared with another. He found shoes of a disparity of sizes, some plushies, and as his sharing implied, 2 beds on the opposite sides of the room. Will was feeling beat, so he decided to take a nap. When he woke up, he saw a small piece of pie left for him. He picked it up, and the voice spoke again. "You found a slice of butterscotch cinnamon pie." He picked it up and found a container to put it in. He then put it away to save for later. Will stepped out of his room to explore. He walked back down the hall to find Toriel sitting in a chair by a fireplace reading a book. "Up already, I see," she said, looking up from her book. Will nodded as he rubbed his eyes. I want you to know how glad I am to have someone else here. There's so many old books I want to share with someone new." She keeps mentioning another person being here. Who the heck is she talking about? Another monster? Husband? Will thought, not wanting to be rude. Toriel went on about showing him her favorite bug hunting spot and making an education for him. She talked about how she always wanted to be a teacher. Toriel then saw Will had a questioning look on his face. "Oh, did you want something?" she asked. Will nods as a reply. "What is it?" Will thought about how he should answer, but he knew what he was going to ask. "Who else lives here? You mentioned a house guest and me sharing a room, but who is this person?" Toriel was not very surprised by this question. "Why, the other child I care for, of course. Would you like to meet him?" she asked. Will was a little scared to meet someone he knew nothing about, but nodded because he was still curious. "Logan, my child, would you come and meet your new friend?" she called.
"I'll be there in a second."
A new voice spoke. It came from the kitchen in the next room. It had a deeper voice than Will's, but was still high enough for him to be young. Footsteps were heard coming towards the two. When the full body came into view, Will was surprised as to what he saw was the house guest. He had brown spiky hair similar to his, a gray and yellow striped shirt, glasses, and a top hat with a small ribbon on it. But this wasn't the most surprising thing about him. Logan was a human. "Oh, cool, another human. I've been patiently waiting for another person to talk to," Logan spoke while holding a plate with some pie on it. Your house guest is another human?" Will said with much surprise. Toriel nodded. "He fell not too long ago. He's been staying here since he arrived." "Yeah, it's great here," Logan said while cutting his pie with a toy knife. "Have you ever thought of leaving?" Will asked. Toriel flinched at this and closed her book. "I have something to do. Please stay here." She got up from her chair and hurried through the house. "Okay, that's kind of suspicious, don't you think?" Will asked. "This kid's got a lot of questions," the voice thought to itself. "No, not really," Logan replied as he finished his pie. "Well, I'm gonna go see what she's doing." Will turned around to hurry after her. "Hey, wait up!" Logan said, running after him. They both rushed down the stairs and found a long hallway with a shade of dark purple. Standing a small way down was Toriel. "You wish to know how to return home, do you not?" She spoke with a more serious tone this time. Will nods, but Logan shakes his head. Toriel continues speaking anyways. "Ahead of us lies the end of the ruins, a one-way exit to the rest of the underground." "Well, that's helpful information," Will said. "I'm going to destroy it. No one will be able to leave again." "Good, I like it here," Logan says quickly. "Well, unlike you, I like to get back home. I did this on a dare and I want my money," Will says back. "Now be good children and go back upstairs," Toriel says before continuing down the hallway. "Alrighty then," Logan says while turning around, but Will grabs his collar. "You seriously want to stay down here? Monsters attack you like every few steps, and Goat Mom over there makes snail pies," Will protests. "But I can get to catch bugs and learn different facts," Logan throws back. "About snails. And when doing the same thing over and over get old?" Will continues. "I guess it would after some time," Logan says quietly. "Well, at least we can agree on that. Now are you with me or not?" Will asks him. Logan replies by slightly nodding. They then continue down the hall and meet with Toriel again. "Every human that falls down here shall meet the same fate. I'm afraid that I will see it again. They come, they leave. They are not heard from again. Possibly dead." "You see my point with staying?" Logan whispered. "Shut up," Will whispered back. Toriel ignored this and continued. "You naive children. If you leave the ruins, Asgore will kill you both." "Who's Asgore?" Will thought. "I am only protecting you. Do you not understand?" "Protecting us by keeping us in one place. Not really the best strategy you got, Toriel," Will said. "Actually, it's not the worst idea either," Logan mumbled. Go to your room, Toriel said, then continuing down the hall. The two children rushed to catch up, and Toriel stopped one more time. Do not try to stop me. This is your final warning, she spoke before reaching the end of the hall. Made it this far. Why not keep going? Will said to himself as he pressed on. Logan followed a few steps behind. They found Toriel standing in front of a tall, purple door with the same symbol that was on Toriel's robes. You want to leave so badly. You're just like the others. There was more? Will and Logan both thought to themselves. There is only one solution to this, she said. Prove yourselves. Will and Logan were both confused as to what she meant. Before long, their question was answered. Prove to me you are strong enough to survive. As she said this, the world went dark, in a battle neither Will nor Logan was looking forward to. They looked in front of them as Toriel blocked the way.